Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Right Business Forum. Today I have with me a special guest for an interview with Right Media. He needs no formal introduction. He's an entrepreneur, a director within a large amount of companies in Sri Lanka. He's a lawyer by profession and his passion is acting. Please welcome Mr. Mohamed Adamaly. Welcome, Mr. Adamaly. Just to start off with, you have a prolific...
Please, Navin, call me Adam.
Sure, okay. Adam. You have a prolific career in theatre and arts. How did you come about becoming a lawyer and also being part of a very affluent and influential business community?
Well, Navin, the arts was something I was involved in for the early years in school, and that's a passion. But in Sri Lanka, it is difficult to make a career out of it, especially in the area of English theatre and English cinema, etc. So career-wise, being in the public speaking sphere or environment, the law was something that I'd always considered as a career. And so I went to law school here in Sri Lanka at the law faculty. And then during the closures of the university, I was looking at an alternative to do to keep myself occupied. I was already in business at that time because my father had passed away fairly early when I was just finishing with my A-levels.
Okay.
So I had to engage in business activity from that time to keep the home fires going and things like that. And so I looked at options during the university closures due to the 1987 to 90 period of insurgency here. And so I did my Chartered Institute of Marketing exams during that time and started lecturing marketing and almost went into a marketing related career.
I see.
By which time law school opened up again and I finished and joined the bar. So I've been 28 years in the legal profession, focusing on commercial and commercial related areas of litigation, plus consultancy and advisory in investments, etc. But because of my involvement also in the business circle and with the marketing background, I've been invited to sit on several boards, public listed companies, public companies and private companies, and also have a few ventures of my own.
Okay.
And so this combination, one complements the other. Sitting and being involved with business also gives you an advantage and complements the legal practice in the commercial area. And so that has been how this came about, this combination of careers.
What do you enjoy the most out of, I would say, the vast bucket of fruits, or basket of fruits, if I may, of things that you do?
They're all different, and part of what makes me tick is actually doing different things and moving the mind from one area to another rather than being entirely focused in one specific field of activity. And so the mix between business related matters and the demands of being on a board and between law, litigation and solving client problems and the escape in the arts and theatre, that combination really works for me. It is a bit telling on the day and on time,
right?
But you find time for it, you steal it, and so they each have their own appeals, and they're all equally exciting.
Excellent. In terms of where Sri Lanka stands currently on an economic standpoint, what would be your thoughts in terms of what we probably should or should not do in order to kind of maybe lift ourselves up from where we are?
Okay. Well, to say that we are at the edge of a precipice is not an understatement. We may have even fallen partly off the precipice. This crisis is unprecedented in this country, not in the world, of course, but we have never faced it. And to rise from it, one needs a leadership of mettle, leadership with vision. I don't know whether we have that in the country at present. There is a call from the people for systemic change, which is important. We are here in this set of circumstances because of a lack of accountability of our political leadership over the years. People have treated this country as their private property. They have done with finances as they willed. There has been no accountability. There has been corruption. Those need to change from a systemic perspective. There has to be true democracy. Taxpayers need to know that they're getting their money's worth. And thoughts need to change. I mean, where we are now is trying to fix the problem temporarily and immediately to get our feet back on the ground. But from there, the building needs to happen. And for that building to happen, the economy needs to start, the wheels of the economy need to start turning again, and turning soon and turning fast. We need to have proper policies for local businesses to be able to engage effectively in business. We need to have proper infrastructures to ensure that foreign investment does come in here. We need local businesses to grow. And until all of that starts happening, we are not going to see an effective medium to long-term solution to our circumstances. And the risk of things getting worse is actually higher than the prospects of things getting better the way we stand today.
Okay. So you're basically saying, in short, that the current circumstances have kind of led Sri Lanka to kind of put on this steadfast role in putting a band-aid on a bypass.
Yes, that's where we are. I couldn't have worded it better than that.
Okay. Do you think that there are laws, in your experience, that are restricting investments coming into the country, or laws that kind of do not encourage small businesses to kind of expand outward, so they kind of stay just within Sri Lanka and they don't kind of expand outward? Do you think there are laws that are kind of restricting this? Do you think there are structural reforms that need to be done in order to encourage such things from happening or to happen?
Yes, Navin. In fact, the questions that you just threw to me encompass a large area of discussion. So there is the role of the local corporates that need to be looked at as one component. Then there's the area that you touched on the law, and that again is split into the laws themselves and the implementation of the laws, both of which are a matter of concern in the country at the moment. So if we were to take the first point, or the first compartment of the corporates themselves, I think one of the biggest limiting factors amongst businesses in our country is a mindset issue.
Okay.
And here I'm wearing the marketing hat more than the legal hat.
Okay.
And I say that, being an island nation, we tend to have what is commonly referred to as the island mentality. And that is that our growth is, limited to the scope of the island. If you look at India and where India has gone in terms of becoming global business, they've taken strides that we haven't come close to. We have the potential. We have some businesses that have broken those barriers of the island mentality, but very few. We need to increase those numbers by 10 times soon if the country is really going to see growth and be recognized as a force in this region, let alone the world.
Okay.
And for that, we need to understand that we can be bigger than just being a so-called large-scale company in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We can be regional, we can be global. Now, the state and law has a role to play in that as well, in the encouragement it gives to businesses to go out.
Okay.
So far, policies here have been restrictive in that area. There has been there's been a tendency, regime after regime, to place restrictions on people moving out. The process that it takes to take an investment overseas is huge. It is prohibitive a lot of the time.
Okay.
Certainly controls are needed, but at the same time encouragement is also needed, because it's difficult to maintain your office entirely in Sri Lanka and expect to be global, expect even to be regional. One needs to also branch out and have bases in other countries. And that requires the movement of foreign currency out of this country. That process needs to be regulated but yet facilitated.
Understood.
And then from the aspect of the law itself, gosh, the amount of laws that need reform, it's a toss-up of where to start.
Okay.
So we need reform.
Top 3.
We need reform in the investment laws itself. We need consistency in the law. And that is something that has been missing. Every few years, what we can do and can't do just keeps changing. We have policies saying, yes, tax concessions will be given to companies that bring in funds this year, and then in 2 years' time, no, there's no tax concessions, there's no this, there's no that. There has to be consistency. I'm not advocating for, giving direct foreign investment anything and everything that an investor would want in terms of concessions and benefits. But I'm talking about there being reasonable packages available and those being consistent.
Okay.
Now, with the port city, there is a law that governs port city investment, which is different to the laws in the rest of the country. But we see that up to date, the amount of commitment we've got even on that has been minimal, has been far below expectation, for sure.
True.
So then the question arises, what's wrong? And clearly the country as a whole and the structures we have as a whole are not attractive enough to bring investment in as expected, even to Port City. Right? So what else needs to change other than facilitating the investment process? Administratively, things need to improve.
Okay.
Approvals, for instance, for projects need to be speeded up. There have to be definite time frames by which government departments, ministries will grant the approvals that are needed for businesses to engage. And those timelines have to be accountable timelines. There has to be action taken if those timelines are breached. I mean, in countries in Africa that we used to scorn as being backward from an investment perspective, they are setting timelines that would leave us in awe. We have administration at the highest levels getting involved in ensuring that approvals are given within as short a time frame as 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
2 months in the Middle East, in Dubai. Forget Dubai, in the rest of the UAE and some of the regions, they're so hungry for investment that they set themselves timelines which have investors going, wow.
Okay.
And if I can set up business with such ease and such speed, this is a place I want to be. We need to have that kind of attractiveness coming in here, because it's a competitive playing field. I mean, there's people who have the money to start business. They have choices, they have options. And we need to fight to bring them here, and we need to be competitive in that regard. In the other areas of the law, from labor law, which is a fairly significant part of my practice, there's a lot of reform required. Okay. Again, clarity and consistency is missing in many areas of labor law. Certainly in third world countries, in emerging countries, there is a disparity in bargaining power between employer and employee, and so laws need to be protective of the workforce. But that cannot be at the cost of complete flexibility of the employer. There has to be a balance. In areas such as exchange control, in areas such as banking, laws need to improve. Even to this day, you can bounce a check and the consequences are not scary enough for people not to want to do it.
Sure.
And it's difficult to encourage commerce if you can't accept a check without confidence that this check will be honored. Now, these are issues that we face even in local trade. You go to a Peta merchant, you will find a stack of checks that he has to deposit, which is this high, and a stack of checks that have returned, which is that high.
Sure.
He's dishonored. You can't do business effectively with that kind of a culture in the country. Those need to change, and the laws in those areas need to change. And the enforcement of the law, that's the third area.
Okay.
So we have issues like laws delays.
Okay.
Years for a commercial action to be heard and decided. We introduced arbitration by a statute in the mid-90s. And we made arbitration compulsory where contracts contain an arbitration agreement or an arbitration clause. But the process of arbitration is, in comparison to other jurisdictions, painfully slow.
I see.
Delayed. The process involves going back to court for enforcement. And so finally you end up coming to the same point. And as a result, commercial arbitration hasn't been certainly anywhere as successful as expected of arbitration.
Okay.
The cost of litigation is also not cheap because partly of the delay. And sometimes at the end of a long legal battle, the victor is equally bloodied or more bloodied than the party that has lost the litigation. And so faith in the legal system, especially amongst commercial enterprises, is low. Now, foreign investors will review these areas before they identify the base that they will come to. And we have a fairly low ranking in these areas, which we need to really improve. And so this systemic change we are talking about is everything from political ideology and political culture to the role of political leadership as the servant of the people rather than as the ruler of the people. That idea has to change. They are public officials who are here to serve the community that they work for. They come into office at their choice. And if they take that responsibility, they must serve, they must perform, they must be accountable. And then systems of law need to change, the systems of administration need to improve, and the implementation of those processes need to improve. It's amazing how even in a single government department, if the person at the head has a vision of excellence, it's amazing how quickly that leader can change the culture in that department. I have an example, if you don't mind me sharing it.
Please.
There was a provincial revenue division in the south, I don't want to be too specific, where the head was a lady who had been appointed recently, and I had occasion to go there in respect of a valuation of a land that I had purchased myself on a business investment that we had made there. I went in the morning. I was welcomed in, and I was placed in a seat in front of the officer concerned. So, a junior level officer.
Okay.
The lady had been in the division for some time. She was a senior in that sense, but her rank was officer to discuss the matter. I started the discussion, and almost as I started, this person from the department came up with a plate of butter cake and a banana. Wow. And I said, is it somebody's birthday? And they said, no, you're here in the morning, and we like to serve our customers with something to eat.
And this is at a government
department, a provincial revenue department.
Wow.
I said, customer, I have never been called that in all the instances I have been to a government department. And he said, no, please help yourself and we'll talk after that. So I served myself. My mood had changed dramatically in those few moments, just by the attitude.
Absolutely.
We had a very fruitful discussion. We agreed on certain terms. And I said, I will come back and we'll sort out the paperwork later. And they said, look, you're a busy person. You can just send it through someone and we'll take care of it here. You don't need to come yourself. I said, again, that's something new, because the experience I've had with departments before is they make you come as many times as they possibly can.
Absolutely.
And then when I got up to leave, they said, if you have a few moments, we'd like to introduce you to our head.
Wow.
Because she likes to meet the people who come here to serve. And I went into her room. When I tapped on the door, she stood up. She said, come in. I went in. Again, fairly new to have the head of the department stand for a customer who comes in. Shook my hands, and these are little things that you remember. I distinctly remember her waiting till I sat before she sat. She spoke to me. She said, I'm happy to meet you. Blah, blah. Is your problem solved? Is there anything further we can do for you? Etc. And then she walked me to the door and walked me out of the building. And I realized that it is the leadership that had changed the culture of the organization. And so the second time that we had to go, I didn't send someone, I went back. Of course, it wasn't a morning, so I didn't get my
butter cake and banana.
But I went back just to express my thoughts about how pleasantly surprised I was by the experience. And if we can do that at department level, at one office level, we can do it at ministry level, we can do it at national level. It requires the right leadership.
Understood. So I think we kind of come full circle right back to mindset.
Yes.
Yes?
Perfect. Yeah. Linked it back.
And we do have the potential. I think Sri Lanka would potentially be a key player to be, or force to be reckoned with, at least within the region.
We have so much to offer.
Absolutely.
I mean, just in the sense of, the land is blessed.
Oh yes.
I mean, you eat a fruit and throw the seed, and the tree grows there. Even when you don't want it to, it grows.
Absolutely, yes.
The people are dynamic. The people have, a grit, and that can be harnessed. I mean, in the worst years of the war, we had 2-3% growth in this country. I mean, that's a miraculous feat, and that is the private sector engine, notwithstanding or despite the roadblocks of the state machinery. We have all that.
Yes.
So it's a great platform to work on. I mean, any foreign buyer or businessman who deals in this region loves to come here, and generally comes to Sri Lanka last, because they like to get all the other places out of the way and then come to a place where there is some quiet, some there is a country atmosphere that none of our neighboring nations share.
True.
Friendly people, food, not too much congestion, all that. Literacy. A lot to work with.
So you would say that Sri Lanka most certainly can come out of the situation?
Well, I hope we can. We have to be optimistic. I mean, we can't certainly achieve anything by looking at the situation as hopeless. Any situation that even is hopeless can be remedied if you put your shoulder to the wheel, and in each of us also have a role to play in that mechanism, not just with our vote and not just with what we do in our little sphere, but we also need to step out and assist the bigger wheel, the national wheel, and do our duty if we're called upon to. So that is something that clearly we all have a responsibility for. And in that sense, we have to look inwards. We have to ask ourselves, if we want to stop corruption, are we willing to take our turn in getting our own work done, instead of trying to bribe our way to the front of the queue? We need to look at ourselves and ask that question of us, because there cannot be corruption in one sector without there being people who encourage it in the other.
Correct.
And facilitate it in the other. So these are the responsibilities we have, but I'm hopeful that things will turn around and people will see their role in this systemic change that they ask for.
Excellent. So without taking too much more of your time, if there was one thing you could personally do that would, I wouldn't say catastrophically catapult us into a different sphere, but would most certainly encourage, at least I would say, the younger generations, small businesses, new entrepreneurs, as a individual who rightfully sits on a number of boards, who also has a passion in acting and a career in law, what would be that one thing that you would want to kind of portray to the next generation or the younger generation?
Well, I think we need to inspire and encourage, guide. I've been a lecturer in marketing for 31 years, and I hope that during that time we've led to the creation of some entrepreneurs. By what we do, by our own life journey, we can hope to inspire. We can talk to younger people. I would like to be able to, and I hope I do, in my small way, reach out to them and give them a hand in coming up, guidance in that area. Navin, when we started here, you were thinking of questions and you worked on your phone. And I mentioned to you that that's part of the generation gap.
Sure.
You guys are so savvy with technology, with with gadgets, with equipment. Your ability to, when I say your, I mean the youth, their ability to catch up with the rest of the world is much greater than the generations before had. And we can take a quantum leap if the youth of this country also muster their capability and become the kind of entrepreneurs we are looking for, provide the kind of skills that the world needs.
Sure.
The one big fear I have is that unless we remedy ourselves soon, we might have drained ourselves of many of those really precious resources, with them leaving to
Go overseas.
Greener pastures, which will give them the facilities to achieve their dreams. We should be the ones doing that. And at our stage of life, we need to ensure that they have that platform here. And we have to ensure that we attract them back. We attract those who are still here to remain and to generate that change from within.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Adam.
Thank you, Navin. Pleasure being with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching.